Hi guys, this is Dub-kun. Last year, FunChan and I released a show called Overflow Abridged. A few million of you may have seen it, and we had a lot of fun making it, and everybody seemed to really enjoy it, and the reception to it has just been outstanding. But ever since that last episode came out, we've had people in our comments and our messages on Twitter, on wherever, saying things along the lines of, when is episode 9? Like, I need more of this. When are you going to make more? All sort of ignoring the fact that for an abridged show like this, there has to be a show to abridge. And there isn't a ninth episode of Overflow. It ended with episode 8. And as much as we would love for there to be more episodes of this show for us to take a swing at, they just don't exist. Now, earlier this year, there was an announcement that Overflow Season 2 was coming out on February 14th. But when February 14th came around, there was no Overflow Season 2. Because it was a hoax. Some people were under the impression that it had been delayed, pushed back. It wasn't anything. There wasn't a real announcement. Now, Overflow has an official website, and you could easily just check for yourself to see if it's updated to say that there's a second season coming, and it hasn't. Every update there's been have been stuff about, the Blu-ray release or reruns, things like that. There's just not been any official word about a second season, and this is for an anime that released 5 years ago. So it's really starting to seem unlikely that there's going to be a second season of Overflow. Now, you may have seen some of these images getting shared around. People seem to think that they're screenshots from a second season, but really they're just promotional stills that were released with the first season. The other thing that I'd like to address about the possibility of a second season of the Overflow anime is that I don't know that if they released one, it would necessarily be as popular as the first season is. Now, the main thing that people like about Overflow as a series is the animation, the sex scenes. But I don't think that would be as successful as it was if it didn't have the plotting that the first season had. There's a lot of direct continuity of what happens in one episode affects the next. You get sort of a porn with plot sensation from it. I think people really like that. See, the problem with a potential season 2 is that the manga that Overflow is adapted from, I don't think that the material that follows after the first season of the anime would necessarily be very strong in animation. There are basically 2 plots that go down in the manga after that point, and neither one of them would really flow well in a second season of the anime. The first plot revolves around the revelation that Ayane and Katone aren't Kazushi's biological sisters. Now, if you've seen the first season, you'd know this plot wouldn't make any sense, because in the anime version, they all already know that from the beginning. It's probably a change they made for broadcasting standards. They had to establish right away for the audience that there's no real incest taking place here, because that's a big no-no. And so, slightly with Ayane, but really with Katone, the whole next chunk would make a little less sense, because Katone's actions are colored by the fact that she's learning this truth about her family, which she already knows in the anime. So they wouldn't be able to do this plot. They wouldn't be able to make it make any sense. The other ongoing storyline that starts after the, where the anime leaves off is about Kazushi's neighbor Tojo. She's this artist woman who lives in the apartment next to his, and she overhears all the, sexcapades that are happening in his apartment, and she's turned on by that, and so she tries inserting herself into Kazushi's life, wherever possible. I don't think that would be a good plot line to set up in Season 2, because there's not a payoff for it that would come within that same season. From the second you introduce another girl into the dynamic, everyone's just going to be waiting around for Kazushi to fuck her, obviously. And spoilers for the manga, I guess, Tojo never has a sex scene with him until 100 chapters after she's introduced. Keeping in mind, the first season they adapted about 3 chapters per episode, and the seasons are only 8 episodes long. So if they adapted this, they'd be setting her character up in season 2 and then not delivering on the promise of her character until season 5, which the chances of there being a season 3, 4, 5, after it's taken this long for there to be a season 2, it really, really doesn't seem likely. So, more accurately, what it would be is they establish this character and then the audience never gets any payoff for her existence in the series. I don't think anybody would really enjoy that. I think if Overflow Season 2 did come out, it would have a lot of the same well-animated sex scenes people like from the first season. But in terms of watchability, I think it would really suffer a lot because they would just be a lot of dangling plot lines that don't go anywhere and don't do anything. I'm probably rambling at this point. I understand that maybe other people aren't invested in the plot aspect of this series as I am. And, maybe just more overflow sex scenes is all you really care about. But this is all to say, we really just can't do more Overflow Abridged without more overflow. And for as many rumors as swirl about it, it just doesn't seem likely that there's ever going to be more to this anime. So when we ended the series with episode 8, it ended. And we don't want it to be over. We'd like to be able to keep going. You need to appreciate, honestly, Overflow Abridged is somewhat unprecedented in the world of abridged anime because most series don't get to finish. They just fizzle out. Either the creator loses interest in it, or they move on to some bigger project, or copyright bullshit is in the way and stops them from being able to continue producing the series. Very few of them really get to finish the run of an entire series and just say, here's the entire thing in abridged form. And in that regard, we're lucky that it's over, because if there was too many more episodes, then we would get burnt out trying to produce it, As much as I don't want it to be true, we can safely say there's not going to be an episode 9 of Overflow Abridged. Sorry.
Overflow Abridged episode 10, however.